Mary Tucker, they've got a waiver of appearance. So as soon as y'all ready, as soon as we get out of the breakout, we'll start with our C calendar, okay?
Oh, there's two papers. I apologize. I was trying to.
Who's the prosecutor for position 7?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay. Will the host please place me, Miss Kim, PD Kim, Prosecutor Diamond Namine?
No, there's actually 2 waivers. It's not just one, it's 2. It's position 3 is a waiver. She's in medical. She spoke.
Okay.
Ms. Abdan.
Position 3, and then which one is the third one?
And then you have position 5, Mr. Ivan Jones. I believe. No.
Okay, is that correct, Miss Kim? Is there a waiver for all these?
Those are PD Abden, so I have to get confirmation from her.
And I have not received them.
Have you received it for position?
Neither, nobody. I have not received any.
Oh,
Okay.
I just sent Tucker, but I'll double check and send out again. Sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
And on Jones, Judge, that one's still pending. I'm gonna go up because they moved him around and we weren't able to locate him for court.
Who?
Mr. Jones, and I do see his family on the line, so once I'm gonna log back into Zoom, Judge, and I'd like to do, if someone could put me in a breakout with his family. I'm familiar with him from, from a previous time, so if I could go into a breakout with them.
All right. Okay, who is hosting today? Is it Miss Champion or Miss Grace?
It's Miss Strong right now, but let me know if I'm supposed to.
Okay, if you can put me in a breakout with Miss Kim, Mr. Pellin, Miss Namine for position number 7, then I'll come back to the others. And Miss Holly, you're definitely also invited into the breakout.
Thank you, Judge. I feel welcome.
Thank you.
Your Honor, state would request to address position 2 last.
Okay. Okay, and Mr. Derek Howard, you needed to be in a breakout with whom now?
I would place them in breakout.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the host.
I said, I already placed Mr. Howard in a breakout room with the
Okay,
person he needs to be
excellent.
with.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Your Honor, I connected to PD Rachel Apton, and she's wondering if she can be connected to the courts.
Does she have the
She's
Zoom link?
waiting. Yes,
I'm in the waiting room.
yes, she is in the waiting room.
Good.
Let's see. Make sure she's on the right Zoom link.
I don't see anyone.
I am. Okay.
She's already been admitted if I can hear her.
Actually, I called it from myself.
Oh,
Honor.
okay.
Yeah, that threw me too.
I've been waiting here forever.
Who is it now?
That's a PD Rachel Apton who's waiting to be.
All right. Miss Jones, let's check your Zoom ID. Let me see. It should be ending with the numbers 8225.
Okay, 982
You let me know.
87182885.
No, 8225.
Okay.
Judge Law, excuse me.
Yep, yes, Deputy.
Okay, so Judge Law, can we have can we go into a breakout? We want to have a little sidebar conversation with you real quick before we start court.
Okay, with the host, please place courtroom 2 and me in a breakout, please.
I'm now in the waiting room. Again. There we go.
Oh,
Is she in now?
yeah. All right. And is it Miss Grace hosting? I can't hear.
Miss Strong, I'm about to
Miss
put you in
Strong,
clear.
yes, thank you.
What are the bond amounts for number 7?
A total of a $6,000 good bond. Charge number one, count number one is $1,000. Counts 2 through 6 are $500 each. Count number 7 is a $2,000 good bond, and 8 is a $500 good bond, making it a total of a $6,000 good bond.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, this is our state expedited accusation calendar for today, September 7th at 2 p.m. or soon thereafter. These are for cases in which individuals were arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail when the cases were soon accused by the prosecutor. If you're a defendant charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you choose to discuss during this virtual, recorded, and live stream proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. Position number 2, who do we have? Courtroom 2, who do we have in?
That's in position 13, Ms. Wyatt.
Okay, Officer Norris, we're going to take position 2 last, okay?
I got you.
Thank you. Position number 13. This is Shantae Wyatt, accused of simple battery family violence from September 6, 2023. Ms. Wyatt, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has 9 arrest cycles in Georgia. The last arrest was November the 17th, 2017 for possession of marijuana out of Atlanta. No disposition was listed. And she does meet the requirements for UJR through pretrial.
Thank you.
Brother.
Ms. Nemini, what's your recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor, the state is recommending a 3,500 shorty bond, no further contact with Mr. Marquis Dixon, no alcohol, drugs, guns, or weapons, and a 1 day of anger awareness. Just considering that the officers went to the location based on a disturbance, and they spoke with the defendant, Ms. Wyatt, and she had gotten into her altercation with her son, and it's alleged that she threw a plate at him as he was gathering his food, and then she grabbed his hair due to, I guess, he called her a hoe and a B word, but considering that she has a conviction for aggravated assault from 2009, the state is requesting a surety and not a signature, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 48 years old, and it was her, she has 2 sons, 18 and 16. It was her son who was 18 that was involved in this incident, Your Honor. She has not been able to get employment for the last 3 years because of her health issues. So we would like to request for signature on bond. She's qualified for public defender services. Her financial situation is not strong as of now. And Your Honor, she's also taking care of a father who is also disabled, and they are living together. And I would like to request for a signature on bond and no further violent contact, since this is mother and son. That's all, Your Honor. Thanks.
Was Mr. Dixon arrested as well, or was this a 1 arrest case?
They were both arrested, Your Honor, because the son did pull out a gun and shoot at I think it was a car, and the glass shattered, so he also was arrested.
All right, thank you. Bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Ms. Wyatt is to have no further violent contact with Marquis Dixon. Ms. Wyatt, it's entirely up to you. If you engage in any future altercations with Mr. Dixon, then you come back to jail and you can pay for your bond the next time. But right now, today, you don't have to pay for your bond. You'll report to pretrial once a month. and you will attend and complete the anger awareness program that's organized by pretrial. And you're also to take 12 anger management classes within 60 days of being released. You report to pretrial about the progress of your anger management classes. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and definitely no weapons or firearms. Your next court date will be sent to you at your current address, which I'm assuming is the Kelly Street location.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, what was that bond amount again? I'm sorry.
A 3,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm. Ms. Tolles, have you had a chance to speak to Mr. Vasquez?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. No, not yet.
All right, and who is representing Mr. Vasquez?
That would be me. I was waiting for Spanish interpreter.
Okay,
And
The Spanish interpreter is on.
right there.
Your Honor, we have an officer about to log on in courtroom 3, and then you can put him in the breakout.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next case in courtroom 2.
Next is going to be position number 1, Mr. Arnold, Malik Arnold.
All right. This is State versus Malik Arnold, accused of pointing or aiming a gun or pistol at another. Case number 23 CR 005-379D. This is from a March 21st, 2022 incident. Mr. Arnold, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Abden. Ms. Abden, we good to go?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has one arrest cycle in Georgia, their last arrest, which was September the 2nd, 2023 out of Clayton County. That case is still open. It's for a DUI and forgery. Nothing further to report.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pellin?
Your Honor, in this matter, officer spoke with Miss Kanaya Stroud, the victim in the case, who stated she was awakened by an altercation between her sister and the defendant. When she went downstairs, she broke up the confrontation, and when she did that, the defendant pulled out a firearm and began waving it at her and pointed it directly at her. The defendant then fled when the victim stated she was going to call the police. I don't understand why this is an aggravated assault, Your Honor, but we're asking for a $20,000 surety bond. No further contact with the victim, Ms. Kanaya Stroud, who I would like to sound for when appropriate. Stay away from the incident address, which I showed be 6006 Centennial Run, Atlanta, and that defendant surrender all firearms to the Fulton County Sheriff and have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right, Ms. Abden?
Your Honor, if we can just sound for Ms. Stroud first, if she's on the call, I think it'd be best to hear from her.
Kanaya Stroud. You may proceed, Ms. Abden.
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 23 years old. He was born in Georgia. He's lived here his whole life. He's now working on getting his GED at Metropolitan. He was supposed to start on Monday of this week. He's working with his uncle at they have a moving company. He's a mover. He also tells me that he has a 6-month-old son. He's responsible for taking care of him, and he tells me he needs to go home to take care of his son. Your Honor, I understand there is a recent driving-related incident. It is an open case. He hasn't been convicted of that yet. It is my understanding that the complaining witness is not on the call. I tried to contact her. I haven't had an opportunity to speak with her. This incident occurred a year ago, and I would ask Your Honor to please give Mr. Arnold a signature bond.
Okay. Bond is set at $1,500. It's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Kanaya Stroud. To stay away from 950 Lake Ridge Parkway in Riverdale, Georgia. Excuse me, did I have the right?
No, Your Honor. We request that stay away from 6006 Centennial Run.
6006 Centennial Run. Okay.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And that's in Atlanta, Georgia?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. no illegal drugs and no weapons and no firearms. So if Mr. Arnold owns any firearms, he has to surrender them to the sheriff or to the authorities for destruction. He's not allowed to own a firearm or possess one or have anyone near him or in his home until further order of the court. Thank you.
Your Honor,
And his next court date is September 21st at 9 a.m.
Your Honor, quick question. What happened to the other two charges? The obstruction and the driving hit and run?
I don't have those on this case. Is that from another case, Mr. Pellin?
You know, Your Honor, I'm a little late to the party, but I am investigating it for the court.
All right, he's only got one accusation in this case.
That's correct.
Your Honor, I do show there are 2 warrants that were sent to me at least that they're referring to, but it's not on the calendar.
It's not on the calendar, though it's on the booking sheet and,
That's correct.
Correct.
Stuck inside the jail.
okay, but he's not been charged with that. Okay, Mr. Pellin, I see you've not issued a accusation on those charges yet. So on the let me make sure I get the booking sheet.
So, Your Honor, I show
yeah.
that there's a case out of the magistrate court. And that he was initially booked on obstruction of law enforcement officers, hit and run, and pointing or aiming a gun. You are correct that in this case, we have only accused pointing or aiming of a gun. I don't know the reason for that discrepancy.
Okay,
The other charges were NOD'd.
thank you.
Okay.
I only saw an NOD for the hit and run, not the obstruction. So I just wanted to make sure that was also NOD'd.
I am going to.
They're
announce-
both NOD'd.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hit and run and obstruction of an officer stemming from an April 28th, 2021 incident has been removed from the docket. So there's only one misdemeanor charge pending against him in this case.
Okay, now bond amount was again.
1,500 surety bond, reset date September 21st.
Thank you.
Mhm. Next case, please, Officer Norris.
It's gonna be Mr. Harris, Kenneth Harris. That's position number 4.
Okay,
Come on, Mr. Harris. Take your time.
Kenneth Harris, okay.
Yeah, he's good. You got it? Good job.
Mr. Harris's accusation number is 23 CR 5378J. Mr. Harris, you've been accused of battery, family violence from a September 6, 2023 incident. You've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Miss Abden. Any priors, Miss Hardy?
This defendant has 1 arrest cycle in Georgia, their last arrest, February the 11th, 2007, simple battery, family violence. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Mr. Pellin?
Your Honor, in this matter, the defendant and the victim got into a fight over trash. The victim stated that she was taking out the trash and the defendant grabbed her arms, trying to get the trash from her, and scratched both of her arms, leaving visible bruises and marks on both of her arms. I do also show that this is the defendant's first arrest. Our office tried to contact the victim and we were able to contact the victim. She stated she's not afraid of the defendant, but she did confirm the events and also stated that she feels they need a cooling off period. For that reason, Your Honor, we're asking for a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services, a 1-day anger awareness course, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Your Honor, at this time, we'd ask for no further contact with Ms. Deborah Harris because of the lack of cooling off period, and a stay away order from 1735 Peachtree Street, Atlanta. And I would like to sound for Ms. Harris.
Ms. Deborah Fields Harris, you are present on the Zoom. Would you like to address the court on this case, or would you like to remain silent? Ms. Deborah Harris, you need to unmute and start your video if you want to address this case.
No, thank you.
All right. Mr. Kenneth Harris, Ms. Abden, any issue with the stay away as well?
Yes, Your Honor. My client told me that he has a 30-year-old special needs son who's nonverbal and blind. So they had a caregiver for him for 6 years who abruptly quit a month ago. He told me that things have been tense in the home due to this situation, and I would ask Your Honor to consider no further violent contact. He tells me that his wife can't handle taking care of the son alone. He's responsible for driving him to and from activities. And I understand from the state that she's not afraid of him. Cooling off period is not statutorily required. And due to the circumstances, I would ask Your Honor to consider no further violent contact.
And is this a minor child or an adult child?
Adult, he's 30 years old and he lives in the home with them. And like I said, he used to have a caregiver who abruptly quit. So they're just trying to figure it out.
Ms. Harris has indicated that she doesn't want him in the same home. I've not heard anything to the contrary. And you're absolutely right. Cooling off period is not mandated, but recommended considering the recent alleged violence. I'm going to agree to the $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Harris can go ahead and sign up for
Your
his.
Honor, I apologize. Deborah Harris has her hand up. Maybe she wants to speak to what I just said.
I do. Do I need to turn my camera on?
Oh, definitely. And please remove the hand signal.
Yeah. I just wanted to.
All right. Ms.
hi.
Harris, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
If you could just address whether you want him back in the same household with you.
He can come back, but I do think we need a cooling off period.
What does that mean?
I don't know, a couple of days.
No, what does that mean? What is your understanding of a cooling off period?
Not.
If you don't know what it means, you don't.
I don't know.
Okay. So you're not comfortable with him being in your home for the next few days, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Your
Yes,
Honor.
Mr. Abden? Hang on. Yes, Ms. Abden, anything else to add?
If I could just ask Your Honor to please consider, like I said, to allow him back and perhaps question the witness about whether she'd be able to handle the situation. I wouldn't want, anybody to get hurt or anything to go wrong because she can't handle it herself. So
she's an adult, and I'm assuming that if she can't handle the adult individual, then she would have told me so.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Pellin, anything else to add?
No, Your Honor. I just wanted to make sure that Ms. Harris was aware that when she feels that cooling off period has elapsed, that she can contact Ms. Abden and try to seek a bond modification order in this case. So it's not a permanent thing. It is now for your safety.
Precisely.
Thank you.
This is, hi, it's the wife again. I'm not trying to place an undue hardship on my husband.
You are not, Ms. Harris. I have to make that decision. My only concern is whether you want him back in the home tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fine.
And why would that be after you've just asked for a cooling off period?
Because the things that were mentioned with regard to care for our son are correct. Our son is a two-parent individual. And maybe by tomorrow, that will be sufficient time apart.
Okay. Thank you. Bond is set at $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. It will be no further violent contact with Deborah Fields Harris. He may return to 1735 Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia. It will take him up to 24 hours to be processed out of the Fulton County Jail. So once he's released out of jail, he may return to the marital home tomorrow. No further violent contact means that Mr. Harris cannot have any physical or verbal altercations with Miss Deborah Field Harris. If there's any further altercation, all Miss Harris has to do is report the matter, and he'll be back in jail on a surety or a cash bond. While he's out, he needs to attend and complete the one-day anger awareness program with the pretrial services. He's to report to pretrial once a month. Mr. Harris, this is an open active case against you. Please be mindful of the conditions of the bond, and your next court date will be sent to you to your current address. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you cannot possess or own any firearms. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next case, please.
Your Honor, we have a little snafu. We're waiting for Kim. The rest of the cases are for Kim. And she's in the breakout room.
All right, Miss Strom, could you please tell Miss Kim that her breakout is concluded?
Your Honor,
Hmm?
I just wanted to ask if I could be placed in the breakout room with position 6 with the Spanish interpreter. It's my understanding that he requires an interpreter.
Joel Pedressa, position 6. Officer Norris? Is there a Joel Pedressa in courtroom 2? All right, until I hear a response. Okay. Miss Kim,
I'm sorry,
Yes,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
Officer Norris, position 6, Joel Pedressa. Is he in the courtroom?
He was actually en route from Alpharetta Jail, Your Honor. We just wait for him to arrive.
Okay. So when he arrives, then we can address this case.
Yes.
Who do we have next in courtroom 2?
We could do courtroom 1. We could do the Spanish interpreter.
Okay. This is Miss Kim. That is your client, Joel Vasquez.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Jones, do you solemnly swear and affirm that the translation you provide will be a true and accurate translation with no changes or embellishments?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. This is State versus Joel Vasquez, case number 23 CR 5381Y.
Esto es el caso del Estado contra Joel Vázquez, número de causa 23CR 005381Y.
Mr. Vasquez is charged with 4 misdemeanor offenses from September 6, 2023.
Al señor Vázquez se le imputa 4 delitos menores de la fecha 6 de septiembre de 2023.
The charges are battery, family violence, endangering a child by driving under the influence of alcohol, driving without a valid license, and driving under the influence of alcohol less safe.
Los cargos son acometimiento, violencia en el hogar, poner en peligro un menor de edad a través de manejar bajo el efecto de alcohol o drogas, manejar sin licencia y manejar bajo el riesgo de embriaguez.
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the case, your statements can and will be used against you.
Tiene derecho a permanecer callado, señor. Cualquier cosa que usted diga sobre el caso o cualquier cosa que diga se puede usar en su contra.
You have a right to an attorney, and Ms. J. Kim will be representing you.
Tiene usted derecho a un abogado y la licencia de J. Kim es la que le va a representar.
Ms. Hardy, any priors on Mr. Vasquez?
Licenciada Harvey, ¿algún antecedente con el señor Vázquez?
This defendant has 4 arrest cycles in Georgia. The last arrest was December 20th, 2004 out of Gwinnett for a DUI. Nothing further to report.
Este acusado tiene 4 ciclos. El último arresto fue el 20 de diciembre de 2004 del condado de Gwinnett por manejar bajo el efecto de alcohol. No hay nada más que reportar.
I'm sorry, is it Mr. Pellin or Ms. Nimini? Ms. Nimini, yes. What is the bond recommendation?
So
Licenciada Nimini, ¿Cuál es la recomendación de la fianza?
Yes, Your Honor, the total, the state is requesting 7,500 total. For count
Sí.
1, 2,500. Count 2 and 3, 500. Count 4, 4,000.
El Estado está pidiendo una fianza total que quede en 7,500. 2,500 para el cargo 1, 500 para los cargos 2 y 3 y 4,000 para el cargo 4.
Yes, so this incident happened at 3 a.m. yesterday in Hapeville at 553 North Avenue.
El incidente ocurrió a las 3 de la madrugada ayer en el 553 de la North Avenue, Hapeville.
Officers were dispatched at the home after receiving a call from the neighbor stating that he could hear yelling from the house next door.
Se despacharon agentes de policía a la casa después de recibir una llamada del vecino que reportó haber escuchado gritos de la casa de al lado.
Upon officers' arrival, the home front door was open and officers searched the room and found no one there.
Al llegar los oficiales, la puerta principal de la casa estaba abierta y no encontraron a nadie ahí.
Moments after, a 2014 Ford pulled in and defendant and a minor age 10 were in the car.
Momentos después, llegó un auto 2014 marca Ford con un menor de 10 años.
Upon speaking with the defendant smelled of alcohol. He looked to be intoxicated. And when asked to step out of the vehicle, he stumbled over himself.
Al hablar con el señor acusado, despedía un olor a alcohol, tenía aspecto de ebrio y cuando se bajó del vehículo tambaleaba.
Upon speaking with the defendant, he told officers that he got into a physical altercation with his girlfriend, Miss Marissa Lopez.
Al hablar con el señor acusado, le dijo a los oficiales que había tenido un altercado físico con su novia, Marisa López.
Because she did not make him any food when he got home. He claims that she scratched his lips.
Porque ella no le preparó comida cuando él llegó a la casa. Él dice que ella le rasguñó los labios.
A bruise was observed on his bottom lip. However, when Miss Lopez arrived, she had the same story, except defendant hit her, and she was observed with bruises along her eyes and scratches on her face.
Se observó un moretón en el labio inferior del acusado. Sin embargo, cuando llegó la señora López, ella dijo todo lo mismo, con la excepción de que él le había pegado a ella. Se notó en la persona de ella moretones alrededor del ojo y, and if the interpreter may ask again, bruises around the eye and scratches on her face, is that correct? Y arañazos en la cara.
Considering that defendant has a conviction for DUI in 2002 and an arrest in 2004 for DUI.
Tomando en consideración que él tiene un fallo condenatorio por manejar bajo el efecto de alcohol en el 2002 y un arresto por el mismo cargo en el 2004.
The state is also asking for no further contact with Marissa Lopez, 1 day of anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no driving without a valid license. And I would like to sound for Ms. Lopez if she's on the call.
El Estado está pidiendo que no tenga más contacto con la presunta víctima Marisa López, que asista un curso de un solo día de concienciación sobre el problema del enojo, nada de consumo de alcohol, ni droga, ni tenencia de armas, y nada de manejar sin licencia. Y me gustaría ver si la señora López está presente en la llamada.
Marisa Lopez, are you present? Please unmute and start your video.
Marisa López, si está aquí presente, por favor, abre su micrófono y prende su video.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 44 years old and he has been here in Georgia for about 22 years.
Licenciada Kim, sí, mi clienta tiene 44 años de edad y lleva 22 años aquí en Georgia.
He does not have any objection to stay away and no further contact.
Él no se opone a mantenerse alejado de la presunta víctima sin tener más contacto adicional con ella.
And we would like to request for a signature on bond.
Y estamos pidiendo que le dé una fianza bajo palabra.
He's gainfully employed as a construction labor worker. He's been doing it for the last 14 years.
Él tiene un trabajo remunerado, trabajando como jornalero de construcción y lleva 14 años en esa profesión.
And his highest level of education was up to 9th grade.
Y el último año que él cursó y completó fue el 9º grado.
And we don't need to have a third-party transfer of the child because that is her child.
Y no hay necesidad de una transferencia a través de un tercero en cuanto al menor de edad, porque el menor es hijo de ella solamente.
We would like to request for a one-time law enforcement officer escorted visit to retrieve his personal belongings.
Estamos pidiendo, por favor, que le permite ir a la residencia una sola vez acompañado de un agente de orden público para poder recoger sus pertenencias.
All right, thank you.
Gracias.
On the battery family violence, that's a $2,500 surety bond. Endangering a child, 500. Driving without a valid license, 500. And the DUI is 2,500.
En cuanto a la acusación de acometimiento, violencia en el hogar, la fianza será $2,500. Poner en peligro un menor de edad, la fianza será 500. Manejar sin licencia, la fianza será 500. Y manejar bajo el efecto de alcohol o bajo riesgo de embriaguez, 2,500.
That will be a surety bond, a total of a $6,000 surety bond.
Entonces será una fianza de caución de $6,000 en total.
No contact with Marisa Lopez
Ningún contacto en absoluto con Marisa López
and her minor child.
o con su hijo menor de edad.
To stay away from 553 North Avenue in Hateville, Georgia.
Que no regrese más a 553 de la North Avenue en Hateville, Georgia.
He may return to the location one time only with a police officer to retrieve his belongings.
Pero sí puede volver a la residencia una sola vez acompañado de un agente de policía para recoger sus pertenencias.
That visit cannot be more than 60 minutes.
Y esa visita a la casa no puede superar 60 minutos.
His next court date is going to be September 21st.
Su próxima, cita judicial será el 21 de septiembre.
And he's not permitted to drive any motor vehicle or any kind of vehicle on the Georgia roads.
Y no se le permite manejar ningún vehículo a motor ni ningún vehículo en absoluto sobre las vías del estado de Georgia.
Thank you. Courtroom 2, who do we have, please? Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Your Honor, this is gonna be Mr. Ware. Position
Okay.
9, you're Ware.
Ms. Abden, would you be able to go into a breakout with courtroom 1 and interpreter Tolles?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
And
Ms.
also,
Tolles,
Your Honor, is Abden, are you interviewing Mr. Pedraza?
Yes, that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, he's okay, yeah, he's in courtroom 1.
he's in courtroom 1. Okay.
And sorry, does he needs a Spanish interpreter, right?
Yes, he does.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Tolles will be back in courtroom 1 for you to assist with attorney's conference with Joel Pedreza.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
All right, position, and that was Mr. Ware, I believe.
Position number 9, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, y'all.
Officer Norris and I were a little confused, but that's all good. Okay, let's see, Ms. Tolles, courtroom 1, and Ms. Abden are going into the breakout. All right, thank you. This is State versus Jewel Ware, position number 9, case number 23 CR 5386G. Mr. Ware has been accused of hit and run, failure of the driver to return to the scene of the accident, operating a vehicle with an expired or no license on person, and a failure to yield the right of way. This is from a March 4th, 2023 incident. Mr. Ware, you have a right, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Ms. Hardy, any priors?
This defendant is a multi-state offender with arrests out of Georgia and Texas. The last arrest was September the 3rd of this year for an FTA out of Fulton. There appears to be an open case in Cobb County for theft by shoplifting. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Miss excuse me, Miss Nemene? Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened March 4th of 2023 between Grimes Bridge Road and Colonial Park in Roswell. Officers responded to a hit and run at the mentioned location, and officers were advised that the driver, who was driving a 2015 Chevrolet Impala, had fled the scene westbound on Colonial Park Drive. Upon their arrival at the accident, they were also advised by the passenger, who also owned the car, Ms. Kirsten Garcia, and then the vehicle that was hit, Mr. Joseph Montalvo, that the defendant was, the registered owner was in the front passenger seat at the time of the crash. She advised officers that once the crash occurred, defendant got out of the driver's seat and ran away from the scene. The accident occurred as the vehicle was traveling southbound on Grimes Bridge Road while defendant was preparing to exit a parking lot at Shell gas station. And then due to traffic on North Brown, the defendant still attempted to leave the parking lot, and that's when he hit the driver in vehicle 2. Ms. Garcia, the registered owner, and the person sitting in the front passenger seat with defendant when the accident occurred was able to provide information about defendant, also his Texas ID. She advised officers that she lived with him and knew that he did not have a driver's license, and that that's why she thinks he fled. Officers ran GCIC and NCIC and found that defendant was not licensed to drive in any state within the USA, and he had arrest warrants from several jurisdictions for traffic-related offenses. Considering that he did have an assault in Texas that was dismissed, and then he has an open case with theft by shoplifting, theft by deception, theft by taking, retail property fencing, criminal trespass, and obstruction of law enforcement officer. The state is asking for a 3,000 signature bond for count 1, 2,000, for count 2, 500, and count 3, 500. No alcohol, drugs, guns, or weapons, and no driving without a valid license. And I think he has, he's wanted out of Lilburn for failure to appear, and he's wanted out of Lawrenceville for shoplifting as well.
Okay, so on the hit and run, you're asking for a $3,000 signature bond?
No, 2,000, Your Honor.
2,000 signature bond.
Mm-hmm.
And the other ones were 500 signature bond?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the failure to yield the right of way?
500, Your Honor.
All right. So what was the reason for a signature bond?
Considering he doesn't have any active convictions. Ms. Fogg thought that a signature bond was efficient.
That's perfectly fine. Although I do know there's an open case in Cobb County, but the state is happy with the state. I just want to be sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
through pretrial services. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ware, your bond is going to be set at a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial services. And this is going to, your next court date is going to be sent to your current address. You're not to have any contact with Joseph Montewa. And you are not to operate any motor vehicle unless you have a valid driver's license, proper adequate insurance, and a correct registration. Thank you.
Judge, break that bond down, please.
Sure. 2,000 on the hit and run and 500 on the remaining charges, all signature bonds through pretrial.
But you said it was a 3,500.
But did I?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's 2. Oh, I'm sorry. The hit and run I consider a separate charge. So it's 3,000, not 3,500. 3,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next case, please.
I tell you. We gotta pay that. Next, we're gonna go to Mr. Wilborn, position number 10, Wilborn.
Okay.
Right here.
In case 23 CR 5382F, Richard Wilborn is accused of criminal trespass and battery of I'm going to waive sounding on that charge. The incident date is September 6, 2023. Mr. Wilborn, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Ms. Hardy?
This defendant is a multi-state offender with arrests out of Georgia and South Carolina. Within the last 10 years, there's a 2018 financial card transaction fraud charge where they received first offender treatment, and it was sealed in 2020. Another one in 2019, that same financial card transaction fraud. Then there is an open case, waiving sounding on the charge, but the case number is 23 CR 005382F. The last arrest was February the 12th, 2023 for criminal trespass by Marta. Nothing further to report.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, this is the one that we requested that will be heard at the end of the hearing.
No, I had another one, position number 2. Do you want this also to be heard at the end?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Live.
All right. This position will also be addressed at the end of the calendar once we pause on the recording or at least pause on the live stream.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, next case, please, Officer Norris. We're going to have to hold on this one. So what other cases do you want to have held up? I just had position 2. So now it's position 2 and
10, Your Honor.
10. Okay.
Next, we're gonna go to position number 11, Mr. Edwin Williams. Edwin Williams.
State versus Edwin Williams, and the accusation number is 23 CR 5384G. Mr. Williams is accused of battery, family violence from September 5th, 2023. Mr. Williams, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Ms. Hardy?
This defendant has 6 arrest cycles in Georgia, felony conviction in 2014 for possession of cocaine where they received first offender treatment. It was revoked in 2014. Their last arrest was September the 25th, 2014 for a probation violation out of Fayette. And there's 2 probation violations, nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Nemeni?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is asking for a 3,000 shorty bond, stay away from 5100 Welcome All Road, apartment D5. No further contact with Ms. Exylene, XYLENE Harris. No alcohol, drugs, guns, or weapons. This incident happened September 5th at the aforementioned location. Officers initially responded to a burglary call, and they found out that it was a domestic family violence call. They were met at the door from the victim, Ms. Exylene Harris, who stated that defendant had struck her on their way from home from dinner. And the defendant stated that only a verbal altercation occurred, but when he was asked about the marks on his face and Ms. Harris's face, he said, whatever happened to her face happened to mine. The state, that's what the state's asking for, a 3,000 surety bond.
And that was Axeline Harris, correct?
Yes.
And is this a motel or a house? What are we talking?
It's an apartment to my understanding. And the state was able to speak to Ms. Harris, and she states that they don't have a domestic violence history and she's not afraid of him. She says the warrant is false, that the defendant did not hit her. They just had a disagreement and the officers were upset that defendant was arguing with them. And she claims that she didn't have any injuries. Yeah, but to my understanding, she was the one who called the officers and she met the officers at the front door. So the state is still asking for the no further contact and the stay away, Your Honor.
Miss Axeline Harris, are you on the Zoom? All right, Miss Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 37 years old, Your Honor, and they have 2 children, 4 and 2 years old. So we would like to request for a third-party transfer in case they don't get no further violent contact, even though parties want to get no further violent contact. Your Honor, my client was born and raised here in Georgia. He graduated from high school successfully. He also has been working as a forklift operator through the temp agency. However, he's afraid that he may have lost his job ever since he has been arrested here. The apartment is in her name. My client has no objection to stay away and no further contact as long as he gets third-party transfer and one-time law enforcement officer escorted visit to retrieve his belongings. Thank you.
All right. A bond is going to be set at $5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Axeline Harris. And the children that are they his children as well?
Yes, 4 and 2.
Right. So I'm going to require him to file a legitimation action. Okay. And then he can get a court order from Superior Court to establish his visitation and custody with regards to the minor children in question. Otherwise, no contact with Miss Axeline Harris and the minor children until he gets a Superior Court order through a legitimation action. He's to stay away from 5100 Welcome All Road. He may go there one time only with a police officer. That visit cannot exceed 60 minutes to collect his personal belongings. No consumption of illegal drugs, no alcohol, and he cannot possess or own any firearms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have position number 12, Your Honor, Mr. Gerard Williams.
State versus Gerard Williams. The charge is battery, family violence from May 18th, 2022. The accusation number is 23 CR 5383E. Mr. Williams, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Ms. Hardy, any priors?
This defendant has 3 arrest cycles in Georgia. The last arrest was June the 12th, 2020 for aggravated assault out of the cab, and it appears that that's still open. There's also an open case in Fulton. That number is 22 CR 006024E for speeding and possession of marijuana less than an ounce. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Nemini?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is asking for a 3,000 surety bond. Stay away from 660 Ralph McGill Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. No further contact with Ms. Tyronda Stinson, who is on the Zoom call. No alcohol, drugs, guns, or weapons. This incident happened May 18th of 2022. The officers responded to a domestic call at that location. Upon arrival, they met with the victim, Ms. Tyronda Stinson, who stated that the defendant had pulled her hair, kicked her in the chest, and stomped her in the face, and causing a laceration and swelling to her upper lip. And he also damaged her phone. And after he called her mother, or I think he texted her mother and just told her, "I just told your daughter how she was a hoe." and I pushed her, but I did not hit her. The mother provided his information to the police. The Miss Stinson is on the Zoom call. She's not sure she wants to speak. She did state that her and defendant have been together for approximately 5 years. They do share an 8-year-old son, and they do not reside together. They do not have a domestic violence, and she's not afraid of him. They have had contact since the incident, and everything is fine. She said everything the warrants is true. However, she states that defendant did not kick her in her chest, and she would like to have contact with the defendant for the sake of their son. Considering the allegations, Your Honor, the state is still asking for no further contact and to stay away from their location, no further contact with her and her minor son, who is a junior. I think he's 9 years old, and that's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Stinson, I do see someone called Tyronda Stinson on the Zoom. If you want to remain silent, that's your absolute right. Thank you.
If I can say something, I can. I'm on
Are
here.
you in bed?
Yes. Well, I'm sitting up now.
Okay. Do you have a child in your arms? I mean, are you?
Yes, I have 2 newborns, but I can put him down though.
Whenever you're ready, because I'll need you to adjust your camera to face you.
And Your Honor, while we wait for Ms. Stinson, I do want to put on record that the defendant has 2 indicted cases, one in 2018 for armed robbery, aggravated assault, battery, false imprisonment, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, in addition to the 2020 case for ag assault as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Stinson, did you want to contribute to the proceeding, or do you?
I know she said about to stay away, but like he is like a co-parent. We do co-parent, so
Which is fine, but you need to put your right hand up and
I'm sorry.
Swear under oath that your testimony is true. Do you swear and affirm that the information you provide is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Does he live with you?
No, ma'am.
All right, and how old are the children that you share with him?
8. He's 8.
Oh, only one child?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And has he legitimated the child?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I just wanted to say, like, since that incident, we haven't really had any contact. It's just been about the child and about the phone. He replaced my phone probably like maybe 2 weeks after that. So everything was taken care of as far as the broken thing.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Kim?
You're welcome.
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 27 years old, and he has no objection to stay away or no further contact, since their relationship is only for the sole of co-parenting. So if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a no further violent contact, he is okay with that as well. Your Honor, he has total of 7 children. So they're all aged from newborn to 8 years old. So he has to pay for 7 minor children that he's supporting right now with the child support, and also 4 of them he actually reside together to raise them. He has been a driver as a forklift driver for last 5 years, and he is making enough to hire a private attorney. He's not going to be represented by public defender services after this bond hearing, and we would like to request for signature on bond for this incident. If Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, we ask for maximum $1,000 good bond. Thanks.
It's going to be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. After today, there shall be no further contact with Ms. Tyronda Stinson. He's to stay away from wherever she happens to live. I'm not sure if that still includes the Ralph McGill Avenue, but he'll need to stay away from that location if she still lives there. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and he's not allowed to possess or own any firearms. While he's out on a signature bond, Mr. Williams, you'll need to hire your own counsel So you are on notice right now that this is an active case against you and you would need to hire your own private attorney. So on your next court date, make sure that you and your attorney show up. You need to make sure that we have your current mailing address. And with regards to the minor child that you share with Ms. Stinson, you may have contact with the minor child in accordance with any Superior Court order issued from a legitimation action. So until you get that court order, you're not to have contact with her and the minor child in question. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're also to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 60 days of being released. So by the time you report to pretrial on your second or third visit, you must bring proof that you have enrolled and are attending the domestic violence classes at your expense.
Okay.
Thank you. Courtroom 2, do we have any other cases except the last 2 ones?
That's all we have left, Your Honor. We can go to position number 2. I already put Mr. Wilborn in the back, so we can do position number 2 by himself.